Alright guys, today is an exciting day on the homestead for us. We are going to make tomato sauce today. We went out and bought 200 pounds of tomatoes. There's 8 boxes, 25 pounds per box. We got them at this place called the Tomato Shed. And they are in Jacksonville, Texas. So we are excited. We are going to make some delicious tomato sauce. We also bought a tomato milling machine here. This is a Fabio Leonardi tomato milling machine. They're very well known for their milling tomatoes and making tomato sauces. They've been around at least 100 years that I know of. And these are all the components to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wash our tomatoes, cut all the bad parts out, quarter them, and get them ready to boil. I'm going to this is going to be making tomato sauce and a review on this machine here. If you want to know where to purchase it, I'm going to put the link in the description below the video where you can buy it. Alright guys, so let's get started. Alright guys, I got the first batch of tomatoes on the stove right now, and they're starting to cook down. In the meantime, I have to, this is a brand new machine, never used it. Let me show you what it consists of. It consists of the motor, and it's got its built-in little gearbox here. I think the motor spins at like 3,300 RPM, but it's got a little gearbox, and the auger actually spins at 120 RPMs. Okay, so that's the main motor unit right here. Next, let me show you how to put this together, and let me bring you in a little closer. Now you got the main body right here, and you got this shaft right here, and this shaft has a little O-ring right here. And what I would suggest, or what they suggest, I'm sorry, is to put a little bit of olive oil. Now I just bought some really cheap olive oil, some off-brand stuff, because we're going to need it to lubricate and to break this auger in, and I'm going to show you that in a second here. But the best thing to do is just to get some olive oil, maybe put it on a paper towel like this, and just go around with that O-ring there, like that, and just lube it up. So that O-ring is all lubed up real nice. Now, you're going to see inside of there's a plastic bushing. That's where this goes into, okay? It fits right into there like that, okay? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the spring onto that shaft. Then we're going to put this auger in. Now this main body, the auger, and the nut that holds the stainless steel screen on, these are all 3 of these are cast iron, okay? So in the back of this here, you're going to see a slot, and that's going to have to fit into the slot here, okay? So you're going to have to line those up. Well, once you put the screen in, it will line up. Oh, it is lined up, I'm sorry. Because I can see through here. Next goes the stainless steel screen. Now, the reason there's that spring in there is to push this auger tightly up against the taper here, the cone here of this screen. Next, you want to put on your nut. The nut goes over here like that. Okay, I just noticed something. On this nut, there is a slot. There is a slot right here. Now, I'm assuming that slot is for this here. This is where the screen comes together and they pinch it together there. I'm assuming that's where that goes. So, that goes on like that. There's the crease where they pinch the screen together, and you want that slot on that nut to line up with that. Okay. Now this nut is a left-hand thread, so it's not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's the opposite. Okay. So once you get it on there, you're gonna have to push down on it because it's that spring, and you just start turning it counterclockwise to get it threaded on. A little tougher than I thought. Okay. Now, we don't want to tighten this down all the way yet. Keep it loose like this, okay? You're going to see a flat spot here. This flat spot is going to go up against here, okay? Now you got this flat, the shaft here has got two flats on it, and you got the female part right there. You have to line those up. You do that by turning this screen here. You can see you can turn that, okay? Then once you push that up, it'll lock in here. Then you can tighten this the rest of the way. Or actually, when you turn the machine on, that's why it's a left-handed thread, because as it's turning, it's actually tightening this up. Okay, so just give it snug. Okay guys, so we got the main body put in, we got the auger put in, the stainless steel screen, the nuts on there. They also give you this here, and that goes on this other side here, and it keeps it from unscrewing, but I highly doubt that's going to happen because this only turns in one direction, and it's always towards the lock direction. So basically that goes right here and it locks this unit in place. That's all it does. Next, we need to put on the trough, okay, or the drip tray, or whatever you want to call it. This part right here has to go over the threads on the other side onto the body here. Like that. That gets locked down like that, and that gets locked down like that. Okay? Next is the funnel or the hopper, and that actually threads onto the top here. And we should be ready to go. What they do, actually what you have to do prior to getting this started for the first time, since it's a brand new auger, and the screen have not mated yet, okay? They're not broken in yet. Just like you would break in an engine on a car, this has to be broken in also. And how you do that is you get some old stale bread or some of the old tomatoes that you're not going to use. What we did is we just bought a cheap loaf of bread for like 88 cents, and you mix some olive oil in it and get it all mushy, or wet bread with olive oil is good too, and put it through here and let it run through here. And in the meantime, the auger will start mating with the wearing in with the screen here, so it gets a nice snug fit. That taper gets nice and form fitted perfectly. And that batch, the reason why they tell you that is because you're going to get little pieces of cast iron in there, little shavings. So you want to, once you run that bread all through, or old tomatoes with olive oil, you want to discard all that, and then take this apart again, clean it, and then lubricate it with olive oil. Okay, and then we're ready to go. All right, guys, I got the machine all set up to catch the waste that comes out of here. Whatever comes out of the screen here will be caught in this bucket. And what I did is I got, like I said earlier, buy the cheapest bread. This bread was like 88 cents a loaf. Just cheap white bread. We're going to get this wet with a little water and some olive oil. Okay, get it all nice and mushy. And we're going to run it through the machine. And in that process of doing that, the auger will break in and mate with the stainless steel screen. And here comes the fun part. Okay, I think I'm going to put some more bread in there. Alright guys, we got some more bread. Let's just get it a little wet. Put some more olive oil in there. And again, this is just to wear in that auger, and then all this will just discard. Looks yummy, huh? Alright guys, before we get started, we need to lubricate this auger here in the screen. So I suggest getting some paper towel, put it underneath there, and pour it over the top, like that. That'll get everything lubed up. While the bread is going in there, this is going to be, you don't want this to run dry. Okay? Alrighty. Throw that in there. And we are ready. Pusher, honey. I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through a couple times. And that should do it. The very first part that came out, I noticed when I pulled it out of here, it looked gray, and that was the cast iron. Now it looks like it's coming out pretty clean. Alright guys, now we need to remove everything, clean it, lubricate it with olive oil, put it back together, and we're ready to start with our tomatoes. Alright guys, so we're going to take this thing apart now and get it cleaned up. Now when you buy this machine, they do give you a wrench here to put on here like this, and that unloosens that nut. Makes life a little easier that way. There we go. That auger should come right out. Yeah, I can see, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there are some wear marks there and along here too. That's good. Alright guys, we're going to get this all washed up and mounted back on. Alright guys, we are ready to start. We've had 2 pots boiling for about an hour and a half, so my tomatoes are cooked. We're ready to put them in here. The first thing we have to do is, like we did before, we have to lubricate this because this is bone dry. We clean this. I took all the old bread out of here, washed it really good, put it back together. Now I have to put olive oil on here. Now I would suggest using a good olive oil on here because this is the olive oil, well, is going to be going into your tomato sauce basically. I wouldn't use that cheap stuff. Alright guys, now we got the auger, the screen lubricated. What we want to do is get yourself a scooper like this that's got, obviously it's got holes in it. And start putting that in there. And then now this could start splashing, okay? It comes with a guard that goes over it, and what you do is you just put it over like this, and it keeps from splashing all over the place. But we'll try it without for a few seconds and see what happens. If we need to put it on, we'll put it on. reason why I'm using this scoop with the screen on it is I don't want my sauce to be too watery. This looks like it's pretty darn good the way it is, but if I need to add a little more, if it's too thick, I'll add a little more. Because what I have left here is a lot of juice, which will not be wasted, but a lot of juice. We can use it for other things. That is awesome. That looks pretty darn good. All right. I wouldn't suggest running this while you're not putting tomatoes in there. That's not a good idea. Puts a lot of strain on the motor because it's running dry basically. So I'm nearing the end here, and there's just a few little pieces here and there. I'm going to try and get everything I can out of here, and then I'll turn this on. I had a little problem because that spiral, that taper, gets tapered to the screen. It's such a tight fit that it hesitated to turn. And what I had to do is get the wrench and just unloosen the nut just a little bit, and then turn it on, and it started going again. This is the SP5. They have the SP3 is a little smaller, and it can handle this half horsepower motor better. But this works just the same. More production out of this one. And I think that's about it here for any more solid tomatoes. Now the skins and the seeds, I'm going to run through that. I'm going to run it through again. You get a lot of juice, tomato pulp and juice out of there the second time around. The third time, I don't think it's necessary. It's pretty dry. This machine is pretty darn good. All right, so let's put in, get this out. Okay, I'm gonna put in the pulp, or not the pulp, the skins and seeds. This was already ran through twice, and it's pretty dry. And then turn it on. Yep, it's getting stuck again. So what I do, I just get my wrench and just unloosen it just a little bit, and it should be all right. Okay. And that should do it. Now there's still a lot of sauce stuck on the screen. All this here. All this here, if you have chickens, they're going to enjoy this stuff here. All the skins and seeds. If you don't have chickens, compost it, put it in your garden, bury it, and your plants will thank you. Alright guys, I just want to show you, this is all the water that we took out of the tomatoes. So after I scooped it out with the strainer here, this is what I was left with, okay? And now we have a delicious, nice, thick tomato sauce here. Alright guys, the sauce is pretty much done. It's been cooking for about a half hour after I passed it through the machine. You want to keep this hot all the time and boiling. And just give it a good stir. Now what we want to do, get yourself a funnel, a good funnel for canning. Get yourself a small pot. Be really careful. Now all my jars I put basil in them, okay? They all got basil in them. Perfect. Now all the lids, I boiled all the lids, okay? So here I got a little magnet. Just pick it up and put it on there. The key is not to touch the inside of the jars. It's pretty warm. Tighten them up real good. The key is jars are sterilized in the oven. The lids I boiled, just the lids. These are washed in the dishwasher, the rings. And don't touch the inside of the jars or the lids, okay? That's why they sell these little magnets, you can pick it up. Now you can pick them up by the edge, but don't touch the lid on the inside of the lid, okay? Other than that, everything is sterilized. This is super, super hot. I can't even touch it. This is boiling, so you know this is at 212 degrees or 100 Celsius. So this is sterilized. There really actually is no need to submerge them and boil them again. You can if you wanted to, but there's really no need for it in this situation, because once this jar starts cooling down, this will create a vacuum. Once it cools down, it'll create a vacuum and it'll pull that lid down. As long as that lid stays down, you're safe. You got to check them periodically, you know, throughout the weeks and months, and make sure everything's okay before you go, you know, opening it. Especially when you open it, obviously, make sure the lid is sucked down, okay? You know what, I better get my other one here.
No, put this under the pot.
Alright guys, again, I got my basil in the jars. I get my funnel ready. Let me turn this around a little bit. Like that. Let me stir this. Because what happens is the sauce, the thicker part goes to the bottom. And so you want to keep it stirred just prior to putting it in your jars. Be careful when you stir it, the bubbles will come up and it'll hit you in the hand, and it doesn't feel good, trust me. Okay, now I got it stirred up. And we'll put it in the jar. Just a tad more. You want it to when it reaches the neck. Again, just grab a lid with a magnet. Okay. Make sure your lids are brand new. The rings, it's not important, but the lids have to be brand new. All right, guys, we probably got another pot to do, so that's going to be it for this video. But I want to point out, and I didn't mention it earlier, when you start putting your sauce in your jars here, is to wipe the rim. Let me fill this up and I'll explain what I'm talking about. A little more. Right there. Turn this down a bit. I forgot to mention also on the rim here, usually it's pretty good because this is deep down in here and you will never get anything on the rim. But when you take it off, just in case, check it out. Get a paper towel handy and just kind of wipe the rim like that. Get your lid. And as long as you don't touch the bottom side, you're okay. Make sure it's nice and central over the opening. Get your this one's kind of messed up. Yep, that one's messed up. You gotta make sure there's no dings or anything on here, okay? Because these you can reuse over and over. It's the lids here that have to be brand new. Always, always, to be safe. And get it nice and tight. And then we're going to put it on our table here. Okay guys, so this is what we're doing. We're putting them on our table. Now I have a piece of, I went overboard. I was worried about our table. We have a wooden table here and it's got a nice finish on it. And the heat will mess up the table. So beware of that. So I got a sheet of, it's actually 1-inch insulation on this table right here. I don't know if you can see that. It's 1-inch insulation, house insulation. I think they put it in the attics and the roofs and stuff. But anyways, I did that because I didn't want the heat. That's all I had. I'm sure a board would work also, a piece of plywood. But we're putting them all like this, blanket underneath, and then put them all in here, and then we're going to cover them up, let them stay nice and warm. And they're cooking in there still. They are very hot. So we'll keep them under there. By tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, they should be done, and we're ready to put them in storage. All right, so now my jars are staying nice and warm through the night on the table, covered in blankets. And I only have about another pot to do, so I'm assuming a few more jars, the big 2-quart ones, 32 ounce I think they are, and that should do it. So the machine itself, wonderful machine. I can't feed it fast enough, that's how fast this machine is. And the reason for that is, this is a 1/2 horsepower motor. This unit here is the SP5. It's a bigger unit. They have an SP3 and an SP5. I like the SP5 because it's much bigger, of course, and you can, like I said, just keep feeding it and feeding it, feeding it, and it'll just keep pumping out tomato sauce. It did have trouble starting a few times because since this is a left-hand thread, if you notice when I turn it on, it went to tighten. It tightened by itself. And this is spring loaded, the auger in there, it's all spring loaded and pushing up against the screen here, so it's a tapered shape. So that's a really tight fit in here. So when your tomatoes are going in here, going into that spiral, they're getting squeezed really tight in here. And then the pulp comes out of here and the skin and seeds come in here. The unit is fantastic. They use these for pizzerias and restaurants. They would open up their big cans of peeled tomatoes and dump them in there and make their own spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce. So, machine is great. Once the auger wore in and now it's mated to the screen here, it doesn't really have any trouble starting anymore. So that is good. This SP5 unit is really designed for a 1 horsepower motor. Okay, this is a 1/2 horsepower, but they made it interchangeable, so you can do it if you want to. I would advise cooking your tomatoes first, like I did, and putting them through here, because it'll be easier on the motor. If you put them in there raw, all hard and everything, it might be a little rough on the motor. But other than that, man, this thing is awesome. You could get the SP3. It would still work wonderfully. Just I'm kind of like, I gotta have the biggest one. You know. But of course the motor works a little harder. But after the few initial runs going through there, it works great now. No problems with it. For storage, after you take this apart and clean it, after everything's nice and dry and clean, get a rag, put olive oil all around it, and wipe everything down. Okay, because the auger is all cast iron. It will rust. So if you put some olive oil all around it, or some mineral oil, that will keep it from rusting, and you shouldn't have any problems. And again, I'll put the link in the description where I got this, and you can check it out there. And I guess that's about it. Now the sauce that I made, it was not as good as my San Marzano tomatoes that I made, the other video that I made. I'll put a link to that here. It was pretty darn good though, this sauce, very good. So what we usually do is get a pan, put some olive oil in there, dice up some onions, saute some onions in olive oil until the onions are roughly halfway cooked, when they're clear and transparent. And then we mince up some garlic, a good quantity, and put it in there when the onions are about half cooked. Saute the garlic for about 1 minute, no more. Okay, once that's done, open one of your jars here, or freshly milled tomatoes, and put it in there. Let it cook for 5-10 minutes max, because it's already cooked really when you think about it. You just want the flavors from the onions and the garlic to really soak in there real good. And then just pour it over your favorite pasta dish. All right? And that is and basil too. Don't forget to put basil in there a few minutes before it's done. Okay? And that's about it, guys. That gives you a very simple tomato sauce for your pasta dish. Alright guys, so that is about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe and share. And when you share, hit the notification bell, and that will alert you to a new video. And again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next video.